Chris is going to give us a demo of managed virtual machines. He's going to take an application like Brad used, but he's going to add in now C++ code and some open source packages while still keeping the capabilities that he thought App Engine was great for to begin with. So Chris, why don't you show us managed virtual machines?
Cool. Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. So what I want to show today is how we use managed VMs to take and add real-time image collaboration in the cloud and add that to Brad's demo. All right? So what we're going to do is we're going to have clients that are running inside of Chrome that are communicating back with a fleet of managed VMs via WebSockets for low latency communications, right? And on those managed VMs, we're going to rely on ImageMagick, a third-party open source library that's an optimized C library for doing image processing and image rendering. Then we're going to use local disk to cache the renderings to make it super snappy. And then we're going to use App Engine's Java runtime as a serving stack to get data flowing from the front ends to the back ends. Now, as Greg alluded to, that kind of technology is not typically supported on platforms as a service, and not what App Engine is today. With managed VMs, this is totally possible. Furthermore, we make it very easy to get up and started with this. So let me show you. Here, we're going to pop over to my terminal here. And what we see is a typical App Engine configuration file with a few parameters. So we have an application, we have a version, we have what module is running. And with a few more lines of configuration, we're actually going to turn this into a managed VM. So let me walk through these settings here. So the first thing is we're setting VM true. That's telling the system I want to run this on a managed VM so I have access to native resources and the ability to run native code. Furthermore, we get into a new section called VM settings. Here we specify machine type, for example. And since we're doing image rendering and image processing, we're going to crank up the horsepower on these VMs and deploy 8-core machines.
Now this could be any of the compute engine virtual machine types, 1, 2, 4, 8 or more cores, high mem, high CPU standard, whatever's available in GCE you can use with App Engine as well.
Absolutely, Greg. And furthermore, as we innovate here, those innovations will flow back through this configuration as well. The next line is the settings for deploying the third-party code that I want on those managed VMs. In this case, we're using ImageMagick and just doing apt-get install to those managed VMs.
And again, anything installable via apt-get, I can specify here, and it becomes available to me in a managed VM.
Absolutely. This is how we're opening up App Engine so you can use third-party libraries like that and get them onto those VMs, those managed VMs, in a super simple way. The next line is we're opening up a port. In this case, it's an arbitrary port, 65080, and that's how we're going to do the WebSocket communication from the clients that are running in Chrome back to those fleet of managed VMs. And then for the sake of this demo, we're going to specify 2 instances because that's more than enough for this demo, especially since we're running 8-core machines. So we're going to escape from this, save it. And now since this is since we're running on the Java runtime and it's a Java application, we can use Maven to deploy this. Okay, so while that's running, I'm going to talk about what's happening under the hood. So if we can cut back to the slides, please. All right, the first thing that's happening is that we're relying on our G-Cloud tools to parse and to validate the configuration file that I just showed you. Assuming that's valid, which it is, it's going to communicate to our deployment endpoints and say, okay, I want to deploy this application. Those deployment endpoints are going to store some metadata about the application, the version, the template, the number of instances that are running. And then from there, we're going to go off and we're going to create the actual containers. In this case, we're creating 8-core compute engine VMs, and we're installing our Debian OS on top of that. After that, we're going to carve out the managed services and make sure that everything's lined up correctly for you. So in this case, we're going to do monitoring and health checking, task queues, memcache, and data store. We're also going to create secure namespaces so that everything is secure within those multi-tenant systems, and we're going to set up smart defaults, so it's very easy to access the APIs and get data flowing back and forth. From there, it's onto the serving stack. And since we're running on a Java runtime, we're going to install a web server, an application server, and a JVM. And then it's on to the interesting parts, the parts that you provide. So in this case, the third-party code that we specified, so ImageMagick on those managed VMs, and then most importantly, your code. We're going to bring all that up, we're going to do some health checking, make sure everything's running correctly, and assuming it is, we're going to install a load balancer, and then we're going to wire everything up for you. And the final step is we're going to take all of that and make sure it's co-located with the other pieces of compute that you're running. So in this case, Brad had showed you some front ends that we're running. We're going to take your managed VMs and co-locate those with your front ends so you get low latency and improved overall performance. All right, so if we can jump back to the demo. All right, so our build has succeeded. Let's go check that out in Chrome. So we'll pull this up. We'll navigate to the URL that's provisioned for us. All right, and there we see our new front end, Cloud Collabo, collaboration in the cloud. This is pretty straightforward. We're going to be able to upload an image. We're going to do some edits to that image. Those edits are going to be shared with the people that are collaborating, and then we can do some real-time conversation back and forth. So let's pick an image. All right, meme 2 looks good. All right, man of the hour, Urs. We're going to use his meme to actually get going. So that's uploading to cloud storage right now. All right, there it is. So it's uploaded. We see that I am the only collaborator, so let's change that. I'm going to share this with Greg. Now, demo note where I'm going to use Chrome profiles to simulate Greg and myself communicating back and forth. So we're going to bump over to Greg's profile. Oh, yes, looks just like you, Greg. Oh, you're a Despicable Me fan as well. I love it. It's great. That is like the craziest theme I've ever seen in my life. All right, back to business. OK, so I'm sharing this with Greg right now. It's going out. It's going to log him in. Wait for it. OK, there he is. All right. And you see now that Greg and I are collaborating on this image. Now, to show you happening in real time, I'm going to try to move this over here. OK, so I'm going to pretend that Greg is actually doing the editing, and you're going to see things happening if everything works correctly in my browser as well. So we'll dress it up with a frame first. Nothing goes with green like magenta. Grab that. Say add border. All right, good. We've got a border. Now we're going to add some high-end doodling. Now, somebody had mentioned that doodling on Orz's image is probably a career-limiting move. But I said, hey, why not?
Only if the demo doesn't work.
Exactly. All right, so we're going to give Orz a big smile. Good prices in cloud. His famous earring, a little more bling. Oh, there we go. And now we see that it's happening in real time back to my browser. And so again, what's happening is that these two clients are connecting over WebSockets back to the managed VMs. We're doing the rendering, we're caching in local disk, then we're sending the updates back to the Chrome clients. Now I want to take a second and say to all the App Engine developers and users that are in the crowd that like this typically wasn't and was not supported on App Engine, but yet it's been a top feature request consistently year over year. So I'm happy to announce that those feature requests are now fixed and available to you. OK, so it's not just about, thank you, all the App Engine developers in the crowd. So while the ability to access native resources and run native code on these managed VMs is fantastic, it's not just about that. It's about great developer experiences and great developer integration. So to show you that, I'm going to bump back out to the developer's console here. So here. OK, it's the same UI that Brad had shown previously. It's our developer's console. And I'm going to show how we've integrated App Engine and Compute Engine by drilling down into the App Engine tab. OK, we see our dashboard. We see our modules. I'm going to select our backend module. That's the one that's handling all the real-time collaboration and communication. We'll drill into the instances. And here we'll see the instances that are running from my application. So remember back in the configuration file, we specified that we want 2 managed VMs. Here we see those. And if we drill into this VM over here, give it a second. OK. And so there's the dashboard for the underlying VM. And if we move down on the page, we can see that it is, in fact, an 8-core machine. We've automatically configured an external IP for it. And there's some metadata here that allows us to manage the VM, quite a bit of it, actually. So that's drilling down into the VM. Now let's bubble back up and see how we've integrated all the managed services. If we come back to the App Engine tab, we'll go to our unified logs viewer. Now what's nice about this is it's not just unifying the logs on all my managed VMs. It's actually unifying the logs across all the compute that I'm doing, be it a front end running on App Engine or managed VMs that are running on top of Compute Engine VMs. So here we see that there's a fair number of servlets that are being hit for my backend. Got one for serving up an image, one for creating the WebSockets connection. And while you could do all of this on an unmanaged VM, you could do it on a raw Compute Engine VM. You could deploy syslog or rsyslog. We think there's a more productive way. We think that by offering a managed and centralized service like this, you can become a more productive developer. And furthermore, if you apply that philosophy out to things like authentication, deployment management, configuration management, developer tools, developer console, that you can be a more productive and happier developer for the cloud. Now let's take a look at how, speaking of developer productivity, let's take a look at what we do with the underlying VMs. Now, we had mentioned that these VMs are locked down by default. So they're not, you don't have root access, you don't have SSH access into them. And that's for good reason. We don't want people going out into production making changes to one of those VMs that are running inside of a large fleet. It makes it hard to manage in a high availability manner. But we recognize the fact that there are times when you need to get to those VMs to do things like do some kind of debugging or check on a configuration file that you have or make some configuration change just to see what happens to the underlying VM. We make that super simple as well. So if we come back here to the terminal, we're going to do a gcloud instances, gcloud compute, instances list. Okay, and there's our two VMs that are actually running. And now we're going to enable debugging for one of those. So we're going to do gcloud debug, compute, debug, use the local directory which has the configuration for these managed VMs. And what that's going to do is it's going to go through that deployment endpoint and put those two managed VMs into debug mode, which is what you're seeing here. I'll clear that up. And if we do gcloud compute instances, list again, so I can grab the name. Let's grab the first one. We'll SSH into that. Let's grab that guy. Instead of list, we'll do SSH. Okay. And now that'll SSH us into the underlying VM, which you see here, Cramsdale at AE-backend 1-0. Clear that up. Now, once we're on this VM, you have access to common tools that you would normally use on a virtual machine. In this case, we can do things like run netstat. Right? And we see all the activity that's running through the various connections on the VM. In this case, we can actually see up there at 65080 with the port we're listening on for the WebSockets communication. And then we can do things like interact with the Debian package man and see that the package that we specified inside the configuration file is actually on the VM. So in this case, we'll do dpkg, and we'll do a grep for, let's say, magic. All right, and sure enough, there you see that, in the bottom there, you see that our package is actually installed on the VM. And so all we need to do is we exit, we'll seal that VM back up, and things are good to go. So what we've seen here is that with managed VMs, we can take advantage of the auto management that App Engine provides with the control and flexibility of underlying Compute Engine VMs. We make it super simple to get started with easy configuration, easy deployments, integration back with managed services, as well as integration with our developer console and our developer tools, right? So that you don't have to make a choice between, oh, I want platform as a service and auto management, or I want to choose flexibility with Compute Engine. Managed VMs brings both of those together, giving you the best of both worlds. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Greg.
Thanks, Chris.